Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Phenomenal Views. I am Nick Smith, and I just got done watching The Lorax on Netflix. Now, I am a fan of Nostalgia Critic, The Nostalgia Chick, Film Master Adam. They have all said different things. Both Nostalgia Critic and Nostalgia Chick hated The Lorax. Film Master Adam loved it. Now, after watching this for myself, I have never watched the original Lorax. However, I did watch the original Cat in the Hat, and I can honestly tell you that the Cat in the Hat is much better than the stupid live adaptation we got, but that's not the point. I loved this movie. I really did like The Lorax. Yes, it's an adaptation. A lot of people are upset with The Lorax because, one, we get the Onceler, they show the Onceler's face, and a lot of people talk about like how, well, the Onceler never showed his face in the original. That's true. And the Onceler tells the little kid of the story about what happened, but this is done differently. This was a really good film. Out of all the adaptations, we got The Grinch, which I loved, Cat in the Hat, blow me, and The Lorax. And the reasons why I like The Lorax is because it was well written, it was well directed. In my personal opinion, I liked the way how they did the adaptation. They did change things a little bit, but it was a good change. They do shoot the unless thing at the beginning, but that's to set up for what it means later on. The film does start with Zac Efron and Taylor Swift playing these two characters, Ted and Audrey. Ted is in love with Audrey. You know, he's like a little kid, and he's in love with this high school girl who loves trees. So he's like, okay, well, she's like, I would marry a guy right off the spot if he gave me a tree. So he's like, okay. So he tries to find a way to get her a tree, and the Grammy, which is voiced by Betty White, which is awesome, she tells him about the Onceler. So he has to sneak out of town. Now, the beginning of the movie does a music thing talking about how Thneedville is awesome. But the thing is, no one leaves the town. No one ever leaves the town, and there's nothing outside the town. It's basically, Thneedville is kind of like that new show that's out, the Dome, or Under the Dome. You know, they can't leave the town. And the guy who's running it, Mr. O'Hare, sells fresh air to people. And when I watched Nostalgia Chick's review of it, she told about how they did a parody about like how guys are going to parties and how they're drinking fresh air and stuff like that. Now, he is a villain, and a lot of people are like, well, this didn't need a villain and everything. In my personal opinion, I don't think that's true. It was a good, I mean, yeah, it would have been okay without a villain, but the fact of the matter is that this villain is like, he's the kind, there's all kinds of different villains, but this villain is like, I have everyone in my little space, I want them where I want them, they have everything that they'll ever need, there's no reason for them to leave. Hey, I just made a rhyme. But, you know, there's no trees, there's nothing, there's no grass, there's no nothing, you know, it's just stuff, except for nature and stuff. Like, there's no nature in Thneedville at all. And so when Ted learns about the Onceler, you know, of course he has to sneak out. And when Mr. O'Hare doesn't want anyone leaving, he has the whole entire city wired. Dang. Like, dang. This is kind of like a little bit of Skynet from Terminator Salvation, but just not as dictatorship-ish. Kind of, but not that bad. So when he gets out, you know, he comes across the Onceler's land, and the Onceler lives out in the middle of nowhere, and, you know, he finds the Onceler, and we come across a stone that says, unless. And then, you know, he meets the Onceler, and the Onceler tells him the story about how he came into Thneedville, why he came to Thneedville, and what happened. And he tells about like how his family was like, you know, if you don't make a success out of yourself, we're honestly not surprised. And this film does teach a very valuable lesson, which I will get to here at the end of the review. But each day, as the Onceler only tells bits and parts of the story, Ted has to keep going back in town, and he has to keep sneaking out every time. And the second time he sneaks out, Mr. O'Hare catches him and talks about like how trees breathe air for free. I sell it. It's kind of a threat to my business, so never do it again. And he keeps sneaking out with help from his Grammy. And so he keeps going back to the Onceler, and the Onceler tells a story of how he made a Thneed out of the tree things by chopping down one tree. And he runs into all the creatures, which I loved the creatures. I loved the bears, the fish, and the birds. I forget what they're all called, except the barbalos or something, the barbaloos. But I liked all this, like how he walks for months, or how he's on with his donkey on the road or something, and then the donkey comes across Thneedville, so he sets all of his stuff up, and all the creatures come and sing along and stuff like that, and it was awesome. It was really cool. And so he chops down the tree. So when he chops down the tree, all the creatures get scared and everything, and then the Onceler tells Ted, when I chopped down that tree, I summoned a creature. Wise, slightly annoying, the Lorax. And the Lorax was out, it was in the tree. And so he's like, did you chop down this tree? You have to leave, you know, stuff like that. And so he said, he makes his Thneed, and he's like, I promise to never chop down another tree. So then when he tries to sell it, you know, nothing happens. Then he decides to throw it away, and then all of a sudden they get popular. So when they get popular, he calls his family. And this is what the movie is trying to, it's trying to teach two lessons. The obvious one, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. And also how easily we can be corrupted. And so, like, when he tells his family that we're going to be rich, they decide, they're like, he's trying to make more Thneeds. But now, when I first watched the film, or when I first watched a review for the film, my thought automatically went to this. Well, instead of chopping down the trees, why don't you just take the stuff off the top of the trees? And they were actually doing that, and I was like, okay, see, there, that's why didn't they just do that? Why did they chop down the trees? Well, then his mom comes up, and she's like, I have a problem. We're not making these fast enough. We're not. So she's like, you know, why don't we just chop down the trees? And it comes to of how it's basically kind of like, oh crud, what was it? I guess you could compare it to $1 Million Baby, the movie about Clint Eastwood and the boxer, of how she's trying to do nice things for the family, and the family keeps rejecting her. With this, he keeps trying to impress his family, and he wants to do anything he can to please them. Because, you know, when you're a kid and you grow up to be a person or a man, you know, or a woman, you know, you still want to have your parents love you. And the thing is, his family was so greedy and everything like that. When they weren't making money fast enough, they were like, okay, chop down the tree. You need to start thinking about your business and me. The mom only cared about the money. And that's one thing that this movie teaches, is about what money can do to us and how we can easily be corrupted, even by the people that we love. Like, even our family, our friends, and how we can easily be corrupted because of how we want to be accepted and how we want to be loved and do anything to earn it. So he chops down the trees, and a lot of people, yeah, there's a lot of songs in this, only one is for trees. I get that. And a lot of people, including Nostalgia Critic, did not like the song How Bad Can I Be? And it's a good song. It starts from like how he doesn't see what wrong he's doing, and it starts from like a little innocent song to a villain song. Like at the end, like he's like, how bad could I possibly be? And he becomes a villain. And you know, at the end of the song, he's greedy, yeah. A lot of people are like saying, well, it's only one song. He went from good to villain and fast. The song speeds up time, and about how he was, one, how he was easily corrupted by money, and how he was corrupted by his family. And when the Lorax was talking to him, he's like, are you proud of yourself? Do you finally have that hole inside of you filled, or do you need more? And that's another thing that it also talks about how no matter, sometimes enough isn't enough. And that's one of the things that they tried to do with this movie, showing how even though we have a lot of stuff, we're human and we will never have enough. Or how some people will never have enough. They have to have more. And the Lorax was trying to teach them that, which Danny DeVito is a great Lorax. Penguin and the Lorax. Awesome. But the Lorax was basically, do you have everything you want? Is that void in your chest gone? Or do you need more? And so then he said, you know, no one is going to stop me. My company is going to get bigger. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to get richer, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And he's like, that's not what I'm trying to say. And then he finally chops the final tree down, and then the Lorax looks at him, and he's like, that may stop you. And then after that, his family drives up to him, and she's like, you let me down, son. She looks at her other son and says, you're my new favorite son. That's one other thing that this movie tries to teach, is on how sometimes people just don't, how we try so hard to please our family or people that we care about or want to care about us, and when it's not enough for them, it can really cause destruction. The Lorax does make a lot of good points in this film, but two things that stuck out to me was, before the song started, he said, what way does a tree fall? He's like, down. Just watch which way you fall. And what he meant was, you either fall the right way, or you fall the wrong way, and hence he fell the wrong way. And so then, while he's telling the story to Ted, Ted keeps having to, you know, sneak out, and he's telling Audrey, he tells Audrey about how when he finally gets the last truffle seed, how they're going to plant it, and of course, Mr. O'Hare doesn't want that. And he even threatens Ted and his house, and the mom, like, you know, when he tells his mom, he's like, hey, I've got the last truffle seed, we can do something. The mom all of a sudden is up for it. But when Mr. O'Hare comes, she's like, Ted, come down here. You need to get down here right now. Look, it's Mr. O'Hare, the most powerful man in the city. And so when they finally get the truffle seed, which the Onceler does give to him after he tells the whole story, and so, you know, he's trying to race to do it. You know, he's like, Audrey, come by my house. I've got something to show you. He tells his grandma, and then after Mr. O'Hare leaves, it's basically a race to basically get to the middle of town and plant the final seed. And when he does, you know, Mr. O'Hare, like, they start doing the song Let It Grow. Of course, now, one other thing that a lot of people should have guessed about how this town was bad, a kid went swimming and he was glowing green. That's a little bit thing called go to the hospital. You see why the town needed trees? So, but when he finally plants the tree, you know, Mr. O'Hare's kicked off to the side, and later on, more trees start to grow, and the Onceler finally comes out of his house, and you see what he looks like now, and he waters his plants, and then the Lorax comes back down from heaven, I guess, or wherever he went. And he said, you did good. You did good. Hugged him. And then the movie basically ended on that. Now, once again, they showed the unless part, and and here's why. Because the Onceler said, or not the Onceler, but the Lorax said to the Onceler, unless someone like you cares a whole lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And so Ted was talking about they were singing about how, you know, we need to change our ways. Things aren't going to get better unless we do. And so, you know, I mean, it's not as dark as the original, but, you know, it's an adaptation. People are going to change things, you know. But all in all, I liked the film. I liked the voice acting. I mean, yeah, Zac Efron might have not been a good choice because his voice doesn't exactly fit a 12-year-old. I mean, the only problem I would have would be that, but other than that, I thought the acting was good. I thought this was a good adaptation, and I strongly do recommend this film. Forget The Cat in the Hat. That never happened. But, you know, all in all, this was a very good movie. It's sad, it's awesome. It's a very good film that I recommend picking up on Blu-ray or watching it on Netflix. So, guys, that's my review on the Lorax. Comment, subscribe, tell me what did you think. Did you prefer this or did you prefer the original? Did you like this at all? Did you hate this at all? I really want to know your opinions. Comment below and let me know. And stick around for tonight, or for my next review, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Have a good night.